Another one.
This is going to be one.
Oh, my God, yeah. This meeting of the Oak Park City Council is called to order. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. City Clerk Ed Norris, please call the roll.
Mayor McClellan.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Radner.
Here.
Councilmember Burns.
Here.
Councilmember Rich.
Here.
Councilmember Weiss.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. We have everyone here. Next is approval of the agenda. Please note that you are adding a revised 13B. If you will take out your old 13B and put in the revised 13B in front of you. So approval of the agenda as amended
So moved. Second.
and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Consent agenda. These are routine items that are presented without discussion as a single item. Anyone can ask for one to be removed and considered separately. A, regular council meeting minutes of December 4th, 2017. B, planning commission meeting minutes of November 13th. C, request to cancel the regularly scheduled zoning board of appeals meeting of December 26th. D, board of review meeting minutes of December 12th. E, recycling and environmental conservation commission meeting minutes of October 19th. F, payment application number 6 final to Florence Cement Company of Shelby Township, Michigan for the 2017 Granson Avenue Reconstruction Project M650 for the total amount of $5,000. Motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved. Support.
Moved and supported. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. We don't have elected officials. We do have a city manager employee recognition. City Manager Tungate.
Thank
and,
you.
Director, Assistant City Manager Kevin Yee.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council, and members of the public. Tonight, we are going to celebrate Eric Knock. Besides that, he has a tremendously awesome first name. He is also a tremendously awesome employee. He's a public service worker, too, in our Department of Public Works. And among other things, he oversees the daily maintenance of our water distribution system, including our pump stations, water mains, and if you don't know this already, we've had several water main breaks, and we usually do during the winter months, of course, when things freeze up. But he also led the crew to work on some of our holiday lighting that you may have seen as you came into the meeting tonight. I do want to provide an opportunity for the Assistant City Manager, Kevin Yee, to speak. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Yes, I'm very, very pleased to have nominated Eric Knock. Not only does he have the same name, he spells it the same way, which is unique, and I'm sure got him some points. But he is our jack of all trades, and he's, I think, our 4th highest seniority person with only 4.5 years in. So our department is, our crew of 13 public service workers is relatively new. But with that, he's filled in and performed our facilities maintenance when we were lacking in that area. He's the one who built the furniture in the Pocket Park out of the pallets. So, you know, and the holiday lights, he put that all together. So he's done a lot of different things for us, and we're very, very happy to have him. He does a tremendous job, and with that, I'm glad that he was able to win the award.
Assistant City Manager Yee, can we find a way that so that he can never leave? Can we tie him down somehow beyond what we're already doing?
We have our ways, yes.
We have our ways, okay. City Council members, if you would join me, I'd like to take a photo. Mr. Knock.
didn't hurt one bit. No. No. I know, Superwoman, that's it.
Yes, yes you are. Tell you what, I would take a week off.
I had one done, I was down for a day and a half.
Item 11 is accounting reports. Need approval for payment of an invoice submitted by Seacrest, Wardle, Lynch, Hampton, Truex, and Morley for legal services in the total amount of $3,873.73.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any discussion or questions?
Madam Mayor, it is so important to make sure your lawyers are paid.
You know he's a lawyer, right?
Extremely important.
Thank you. All right, roll call, please.
Councilmember Burns,
Yes.
Mayor McClellan,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Radner,
Yes.
Councilmember Rich,
Yes.
Councilmember Weiss.
Yes.
Motion carried. Item 11B, approval for payment of an invoice submitted by Howard L. Schiffman, P.C. for legal services, retainer for January 1st, 2018 through March 31st, 2018, in the total amount of $15,000. We always pay ahead on this quarter. Is there a motion to approve payment?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and supported. Roll call, please.
I have a question.
Mayor
Yes.
McClellan.
Oh, sorry, discussion or question?
Yeah, this is his newest contract that we negotiated, and it expires next year? Newly
City
contracted
Manager,
amount, and it expires next year?
If you're referring to Mr. Schiffman's contract,
Yes.
he does not have a contract with us. And this is on he charges
quarter?
us preemptively for the quarter prior to him doing the work. It is a flat fee, does not have a contract.
Oh, okay, I thought he did.
Same price as we've always, no increase.
It's a reduced cost based, 5 years ago, he voluntarily reduced his flat fee, but it is that same exact cost from 5 years ago.
Okay.
Any further questions?
Nope.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mayor McClellan,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Radner,
Yes.
Councilmember Rich,
Yes.
Councilmember Weiss,
Yes.
Councilmember Burns.
Yes.
This passed unanimously. Ordinances. We have several ordinances that we're changing to update the city. First is, this is the first reading of an ordinance to amend Section 901, permitted uses of Article 9, LI Light Industrial Districts, Appendix A zoning of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Oak Park, Michigan. Motion to approve the first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Discussion, questions?
I just-
Councilmember Burns.
I just think that, I think maybe Kim should just give a little detail for the folks that are watching, so they'll understand what
Right.
the ordinance is about.
Yes, the proposed changes we're making to the light industrial district is to allow for additional uses. It's on. And the additional uses would be in reference to recreational types of uses larger than 4,000 square feet. So your airtime trampolines, rock climbing walls, CrossFit studios, larger dance studios, gymnastics, et cetera. And then also for arts facilities and art studios. Most communities do allow that in their industrial districts because those buildings tend to make the best places for these types of businesses with the high ceilings and larger square footage. So we are recommending this change in our industrial district as well.
Fine. Further
Yes.
question?
Yes, I was aware, I just wanted her to give a little detail for the public and people
Super.
in the audience.
Super
Thank you.
wonderful.
Thank you.
Are we ready to vote then?
I have a quick question.
Yes, please. Councilmember Weiss.
So this, is it pretty, in terms of like what sort of development it would allow, is it pretty broad? Like, for example, if someone wanted to open an escape room, would they be covered under this?
An escape room really wouldn't be classified as a recreational type of use, so no, it would not be.
Okay. So it would have
So
to
it
be.
is fairly specific. We do have some wiggle room in interpretation for the planning commission to go by.
Okay.
We ready to vote?
Yes.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Radner,
Yes.
Councilmember Rich,
Yes.
Councilmember Weiss,
Yes.
Councilmember Burns.
Yes.
Mayor McClellan.
Yes. Motion carries unanimously. Item 13B is first reading of an ordinance to amend the City of Oak Park Code of Ordinances by adding a new chapter, Municipal Civil Infractions, thereby prescribing civil sanctions for certain violations of the City of Oak Park Code of Ordinances. First, we need a motion to approve the first reading.
So moved.
Is there support?
Second?
Second. Then I'd like to turn it over to our city attorney, Ebony Duff, to explain the history of how we got here and why we decided to do this different kind of procedure and why it's better than the old one.
Excuse me. Thank you. Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. I am very pleased to bring this piece of legislation before you. First and foremost, it is one of the items that was requested by our firm, excuse me, Guerin Luco Miller, when we began working for the city back in 2013. Just briefly, historically, the City of Oak Park prosecuted our municipal ordinance violations for certain infractions, particularly for blight enforcement, zoning ordinance provisions, and some related building code violations as criminal misdemeanors. As a criminal misdemeanor, obviously this has an impact on potential violators' criminal records. It subjects them, in addition to a civil fine, often to potential term of imprisonment up to, in some cases, 90 to 93 days. And we had found historically, both council and city administration, that initiating these types of violations against the violators really weren't obtaining the ultimate compliance or abatement that the city was aiming toward for these essentially civil violations. So per the Michigan Constitution and statutory ordinance provisions, the city is permitted to enact its own ordinance designating certain infractions as civil infractions, certain violations as civil infractions for those portions of the code that are stated in the proposed ordinance. And once we designate an ordinance specifically designating those violations as civil infractions, we have the ability to charge a fee as opposed to actually implementing criminal sanctions. And again, this was requested by at least 3 versions of city council that I've worked for and your administrative staff that actually handles the tickets or violation notices. So you have before you the proposed enacting ordinance that would permit to change the designated sections of the current code of ordinance that are listed there as civil infractions. But in addition to enacting that ordinance, we also have to amend 3 existing ordinances, and this is under our fire code, the property maintenance code, as well as the nuisance or environmental codes, to change those previous violations that were deemed misdemeanors to civil infractions. So there's actually 4 ordinances before you this evening, 1 enacting ordinance under item 13B, and then items 13C, D, and E are all amendments to current ordinances. And I understand that a few of you may have some questions about that. And just one final statement, although we are changing these violations into civil infractions, they will still be handled through our court, our local court here. Individuals will have an opportunity to go to the court, admit responsibility for the violations and pay a fine, or alternatively, they can contest responsibility and have the opportunity for a full hearing before the court.
Question. Councilmember Weiss.
We received a revised version. What is the difference between the revised version and the one that we originally received?
The revised version you received simply, well, not simply, but the original version had an exception for the amount of the fines for certain chapters. And one of those initially proposed exceptions were for violations of the animal cruelty code. Upon discussing this with our Department of Technical and Planning and the code enforcement officers that actually issue the tickets, it was found that the court is currently implementing fines at the rate that we're proposing, which is $150 for the first offense and $250 for a first repeat offense. So in light of the fact that the court was already implementing those fines, we wanted this ordinance to be consistent as opposed to making an exception for those.
Further questions?
I do have a question, Madam Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem?
City Attorney, I guess this question is directed to you. I noticed that the first two offenses that somebody would commit would be civil infractions. The third one would be a misdemeanor. I'm aware that this is very common in criminal type actions and in civil infraction actions, where first offense is minor, second offense is more serious, third offense is more serious than that. Sometimes it bumps up to a more serious misdemeanor, sometimes to a felony. Drunk driving comes to mind, where the first offense is 93 days, the second offense is a year, third offense is a felony. But I also know that we have prosecutorial discretion. And obviously that's something that our city attorney and city prosecutor exercise very carefully and very intelligently and very methodically. And if there's somebody who made a mistake and it happens to be a third time, it doesn't necessarily have to get charged as a misdemeanor. They still have the right to charge it as a civil infraction. I understand that correctly?
You do understand that correctly. That is the case. And quite frankly, they have discretion in repeat offenses, and they also have discretion, especially for our some of the traffic enforcement provisions, to charge them as misdemeanors initially, or to charge them as civil infractions, again, depending on the extent of the violation.
Okay, thank you.
I
And
have
thank you for this amazing work, for getting
You're
this
welcome.
done.
I have another question.
Yes, Councilmember Weiss.
So my understanding is that this is the final version of what needs to happen in order to switch all of these charges over from misdemeanor charges to civil infractions. Because I know that council has previously approved some of this already. Is this the end of it, or is there any more to come?
At this point, these are all the revisions that are required. Again, your initial enacting ordinance, and then the 3 amendments are somewhat recent legislation that council enacted that had penalties listed as misdemeanors, and so we are taking the affirmative action at this time to make sure that those are all redesignated as civil infractions. And at this time, I am not aware of any additional request for revisions.
Thank you.
Further questions? No? Are we ready to vote then? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Rich.
Yes.
Councilmember Weiss.
Yes.
Councilmember Burns.
Yes.
Mayor McClellan.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Radner.
Yes.
I would like to say that this was a huge undertaking by our city attorney, enormous amount of work, and department heads also worked on this. You don't realize how difficult and how detailed this kind of job is. But back in 2012, when I was a new mayor, I read in the Michigan Municipal League handout that this would be, a wonderful thing to go to make it quicker and easier for the city to get cleaned up. And we started talking about it back in 2012. And it is 2017, and it's a happy day to be actually enacting this. Thank you. Next, we have item C, first reading of an ordinance to amend Article 6, Property Maintenance Code of Chapter 18, Buildings and Building Regulations of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Oak Park by amending Section 18-231 thereof. We have a motion to approve the first reading.
So moved?
Is there support?
Support.
All right. Discussion or questions on this one?
Just give us some more, some detail about this.
Just a
one
little,
specifically. The
City
changes,
Attorney
the
Duff,
revision,
can you
the actual revision.
explain just a bit about this particular amendment to the property maintenance code?
The specific amendment to this section would be at section 106.4, which is the second page of the proposed ordinance, and this is changing. Originally, it stated that a violation or anyone who violates this provision of the code shall be deemed responsible for a misdemeanor. It is now revised or amended to state they shall be deemed responsible for a municipal civil infraction.
Okay, so very minor.
Well, very major.
Major. Yeah, major.
Major change to the penalty phase.
Yes.
Any other
Minor
questions?
change on paper, so that's right.
All right, are we ready to vote? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Weiss.
Yes.
Councilmember Burns.
Yes.
Mayor McClellan.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Radner.
Yes.
Councilmember Rich.
Yes.
Motion carried. Item 13D is another change. First reading of an ordinance to amend Section 4237 of Chapter 42, Fire Prevention and Protection of the Code of Ordinances, City of Oak Park. Is there a motion to approve the first reading?
So moved?
Support?
Moved and supported. I wonder if our city attorney would just explain specifically this one.
Of course. The revision to this ordinance is at section 109.4, violation penalties, which is amended to read essentially, instead of an individual who is found to violate the provisions of this code shall be deemed responsible for a misdemeanor, has now been changed to state they shall be deemed responsible for a municipal civil infraction. That is the only amendment to that section.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Ready to vote then? Roll call.
Councilmember Burns,
Yes.
Mayor McClellan,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Radner,
Yes.
Councilmember Rich,
Yes.
Councilmember Weiss.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously. Item E, first reading of an ordinance to amend Section 3899 of Chapter 38, Environment of the Code of Ordinances, City of Oak Park. Is there a motion to approve the first reading?
So moved?
Support.
Moved and supported. I wonder if our city attorney would just specifically, this one, what does that change?
This specific amendment is to the section title of Section 38-99, which previously stated failure to comply with removal notice deemed a misdemeanor. It is now proposed to be amended to state failure to comply with the removal notice is deemed a municipal civil infraction. And that is the only revision.
Thank you. Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mayor McClellan,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Radner,
Yes.
Councilmember Rich,
Yes.
Councilmember Weiss,
Yes.
Councilmember Burns.
Yes.
Motion carried. I know that Mayor Pro Tem Radner is particularly pleased with this as well, because some of these things, it doesn't make sense that they would have gotten jail time for a garden violation or something else. It just seemed excessive. So I'm very glad that this is kind of a momentous occasion in Oak Park, and we're glad to have it. And I think our city attorney has already done her thing. City Manager Tungate.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wanted, 15A, I just wanted to remind our public, and I think there's a graphic, there we go. So, just as a reminder for holiday hours, the City Hall is normally closed on Friday, December 22nd. It's a non-working Friday, as we call it. The holiday hours will be Monday and Tuesday, December 25th and 26th. The City Hall will be closed. And then for the New Year holiday, Monday, January 1st, and Tuesday, January 2nd, City Hall will be closed. So I wanted to put this out as a reminder. Thank you very much, Benny. And 15B, I would ask that Director Maroney join me at the podium.
Recommendation from the Planning Commission to approve a site plan on Greenfield Road in front of the Armory, on the Armory site in front of the FedEx facility. We have representatives from Shostak Brothers as well as Stonefield Engineering in the audience. Steve, I believe, is going to walk you through what the site plan looks like and some renderings of the building.
Thank you. Oh, yeah.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Steve Dzinski. I'm representing Shostak this evening. I'm the Vice President of Development. And I got a couple of slides here that I can walk you through just to kind of give you an overall location, site plan, elevation, so on and so forth. So if I can begin.
So the bottom line is 8 Mile Road, and the left is Greenfield?
Well, if you look at this sketch, the red square, that's the total property. The 5.6 acres is the total property, of which the 1.22 acres, phase one, that we're trying to develop in this first stage. It's just west of FedEx, just east of Northland Mall, and then just south of Taco Bell, and then north of Office Depot. So it kind of just gives you an idea of the total property and then the phase one within that property. Here's a larger overall site elevation. If we just focus on the yellow shaded area, the overall building is 11,700 square feet. There will be 3 tenants, which we are negotiating releases right now, consisting of 4,600, 4,000, and 2,800. There will be 2 main driveways off of Greenfield. I guess the primary driveway would be the FedEx driveway, which leads all the way back to the FedEx property. And the secondary driveway would be about 200 feet north, which would be a driveway for this first phase as well as for additional development opportunities. The exterior lights will be your general parking lot lighting, and it will have also building wall sconces. With this property, requires a detention basin. The basin will not only serve the 1.22 acres of the 5.6 acres, but it'll service the entire 5.6 acres so that we could be plug and play for the future development. We also located some future properties development that we think are quite viable once we get this first phase in. The first area is the future development shown at the very top, which is about 1.5 acres and could be either additional retail or restaurant. Additional future development behind the phase 1 new development, which could be for someone that wants to be off the beaten path of Greenfield, but with primary signage along Greenfield would be a perfect location. It's a good-sized property. As far as the phase 1 development, where you see the future development locations, we will be removing all the asphalt, all the light poles, all the concrete islands, all the dead trees, the grease barrel that's sitting out there. Just from an overall marketing and community standpoint, we think it's just the right thing to do.
We appreciate that.
And lastly but not least, if everything goes well, we anticipate to start May, June of 2018, so 3-4 months here, and have a fully occupied building first quarter of 2019. Oops.
Wonderful. Are there any questions about this development?
We got one more slide.
Okay.
That can come up. There we go. Now, the most important part here is, what does this thing look like? So as you can see, it's split into 3 tenants. It's got 12-foot high glass, double doors at each entrance. You got a modern canopy above the glass. The material above the glass is going to be a stone veneer, a cultured stone veneer. The 4 pillars will be also a cultured stone veneer that will have monolithic coloring to it, as well as the, and then on the side and the rear of the, should be another one. Yeah, one more. Yep, and then the rear and the side of the building will be split-face masonry block. It's kind of a textured ornamental block that will be on the side and rear. Other than that, that's a basic overview, and if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions? Councilmember Burns.
No questions really, but just a comment. I was on the Planning Commission when you made your initial presentation, so I wanted to say thank you for lightening up the color on the drawing.
You noticed.
Yes, I did,
Good.
and I also noticed the materials
Yes,
that
we
we
changed
had
those.
discussed were changed as well, so thank you.
You're welcome.
See, we noticed.
Any other questions? Councilmember Weiss.
I just had a quick question. First of all, I'm very excited to see that there may be this new development coming in. One just item that I thought of when I was looking at the renderings was that there is a lot of parking right in front of the building.
Yes.
And I wondered if you'd given any consideration to limiting the parking in front of the building, since you have such ample parking available around and behind the building, just to give it a little bit more curb appeal from Greenfield.
Well, we can't eliminate the amount in the front only because there's a 70-foot setback from the road.
Required.
That's based on just the deed that came with the property. So in order to do 70 feet, it allows you for 2 rows of parking. So in order to lay it out, it just fit that the 2 rows is just within the 70 feet.
Thank you.
Councilmember Burns.
I would think that in addition to that, that would have an impact on future businesses coming in?
That's what we're hoping. We're hoping this is the first step in order to develop the entire 5.6 acres and hopefully something on the other side as well. So, yes.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
One more question, Madam Mayor.
Yes, Councilmember Weiss.
Do you have any idea of what tenants you may be expecting?
Yes, it's
Or the types, if it's in negotiations still, just
yeah,
concept.
it's clothing and shoes.
Where's Kim
That's
Maroney?
specific
There
enough.
she is.
Okay. Thank you. We're delighted to have you. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for being so responsive, and welcome to the park.
Thank you. We hope to be here for a long time. We got another one 8 Mile to get going
Great.
too.
Great. Hope to see you again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, ready to vote. A motion to accept the recommendation of the Planning Commission and approve the final site plan for Northland Plaza, 21260 to 21280 Greenfield, subject to conditions.
So moved?
Second.
Second. Any discussion further? Roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Radner.
Yes.
Councilmember Rich.
Yes.
Councilmember Weiss.
Yes.
Councilmember Burns.
Yes.
Mayor McClellan.
Yes. Motion carried.
Madam Mayor, members of council, that completes the city manager report for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Call to the audience. If you would have anything you'd like to say, come on up. Give us your name and address for the record.
Stephen Gold, 15,000 Leslie Street. Prior to this meeting, there was a special meeting which took place, question and answer about the proposed 9 Mile Road project and redesign. And I just want to express my appreciation to City Manager Chungate and Director Maloney for all the work that they've done and trying to get the citizens involved. There are a lot of communities which I think would have just bulldozed this through and just gone ahead and did it. But this was the second meeting. Concerns and questions were raised at the first one. And the amount of research that took place between them just astonished me. And I'm very happy and proud, that the city I live in actually wants residents' input when they do things like this. So all I want to say is where is she? There she is. Thank you. Yes, all of you. Thank you so much, all of you. And that's it.
Thank you
Thank you.
so much,
Thank you.
Golly. We get lots of complaints. It's kind of nice to get a attaboy every once in a while.
Hello, Greg Markarian, 23400 Seneca. Coming to the meeting tonight to talk about the ordinance and the ordinance officers. We've been having some problems at the address, and they've been called to come out because they, were called. Neighbors been calling saying there's stuff going on at the house, but they've come out, looked. They've even agreed with us that there's nothing going on, but we still got a write-up. So, and then we also got a letter in the mail about the write-up after we talked to them, and they said that they got the complaint and then they were doing their job by coming out and looking. They didn't see anything wrong with it. They agreed with us, but we still got a write-up for it. And one of my questions is, why are we getting a write-up when we all were in agreement that there was nothing wrong?
Please talk to Director Barrett at the back table before you leave.
Okay.
The good-looking guy with the green shirt.
Okay. And, I was just, the other part, or the second part of it was, in the sense of, the complaint coming in from, the neighbor or, other citizen in the sense of, yes, they're doing their job, you know, by reacting to the complaint, but instead of, especially if they agree and they know the complaint is, there's nothing wrong, instead of adding fuel to the fire and coming and writing something up, they should be trying to contact the people that called in with the complaint and let them inform them that, well, there's nothing wrong with this, you know, that, you know, stop calling in, you know, because it's been more than once. That's why it's gotten to the point where we had to come and talk to you guys about it.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming out. Thanks for.
All right, thank you.
I think if there is a complaint, there just isn't enough staff, I think, to get back to the person who complains, to explain what happened. I think somebody puts in a complaint sometimes and feels it goes into a black hole, that nobody's responding, but somebody always is responding and logging in exactly what the complaint is and responding to it. But there just isn't staff enough to call the person and let them know. I think down the road, electronics will help us. Anybody else? It's a chatty group. All right. Okay. We get a lot of complaints, and that's what we're here for. So don't ever feel bad about bringing a complaint to the city council or city manager. Compliments make us happy, but complaints make us better. So bring it on. But also, we did get a Christmas present from a resident, Russell Ayers, who didn't have a complaint. He had some kudos. So I wanted to share this one too. A quiet snow day is a good time to tell you about the really good things that I like about how y'all run the city. This is for Mayor McClellan, City Council, and Manager Tungate. That whatever you did to Oak Park Boulevard west from Coolidge a year or more ago was noticed. The pavement is much better to drive on. Nice you'd think to do something instead of waiting till it breaks up. The sunflowers, potted plants, and gardens spotted about are very, very welcome. They're like a welcome sign, and in the best places. Landscaping and gardens about a house or a city can make it look like a home, and one concerned for the future. The diligence by which contractors pick up yard waste, garbage, recycling leaves, and branches has been consistently good. That must come from good management from you and the companies, so thanks. And I remember now that that big project you did cleaning and checking the condition of the city sewer lines. Nice preventative and maintenance work. Good to think you've got your eye on the future instead of delaying until disaster strikes. Love your communications, your city services. Though I make little use of them, I'm not getting younger, so I must compliment public safety. There are a handful of times they've been called to help us with my mother-in-law and more recently with me. Your speed of response, your kindness, consideration, and professionalism at each instance are extraordinary. You are special people, in my book, that I would be proud to be a neighbor to. That'll do for now. One last thought, though. Snow is for fun. Don't be so busy that you don't have time to play in it. Let your inner child have at it. Thank you to Russell Ayers for cheering us all up today. Mayor Pro Tem Radner.
Thank you all for coming out. Have a lovely evening.
City Council Member Burns.
Thank you, everyone, for coming out. Have a very happy holiday.
Yes.
Be safe.
Council Member Weiss.
Thank you, everyone, for coming out. I just wanted to quickly remind everyone that the Department of Recreation has their 5-year survey out right now. So they're working on their 5-year plan. They have a survey for residents. So if you want to have input in that 5-year plan, please take some time to fill it out. You can do it online at the city website, and there are some hard copies here as well if you prefer that. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Thank you. Council Member Rich.
Thanks, everybody, for coming. Good night.
Chatty as always. There being no further message to come before this council, this meeting is adjourned. Business was the word I was searching.
Keep you guys posted.
On that, yeah.
I'll be